SMG.
Oh, right. We just need to change a little bit how we are handling the input. I will open the first person character again, and we see that whenever we press this button, then, well, we are only firing, but we want it to work if we hold the button. So we will use these two events, pressed and released. If we're pressing, uh, the, the diagram will go something like this. If I haven't bored you with my little diagrams, if we press the button, I'm gonna draw a button here. If we press it, then while it's pressed, the gun should be firing, like running this behavior as long as it's being pressed. So while it's pressed, and this was really like not that pressed, like this, then it should fire, and after some time, depending on the fire rate, maybe it could be after 0.2 seconds, it should fire again. And when we release it, then it should stop firing. So we have a start, and we have a firing action and a stop action. We can do like uh, diagrams like this, so we can know if it's firing, and if it is, what happens, or if it isn't, what else. But in order to do not waste a lot of time, I have already created a diagram for this, and it isn't as simple as you would expect as I was doing the diagram. And here it is, docs, flowcharts, and I'm using what was it, GraphBiz. So I have this code, I compiled it, and it gives me something like this. And what happens here now? Let's look it quickly. We start the game, well, we start shooting. If the player is doing the shooting input, then we start shooting. Then we do the actual shooting that we have already created. We have the shoot action, we have the line trace between the gun and the crosshair. If it collides, we will do some damage, and we will reserve this for the target's part at the end. And then we ask if the player has stopped shooting, like if the input has been released. If it has, then we stop shooting and then delete the shooting timer. We'll see that we will create a timer. And if the player is still shooting, then we ask if the gun isn't automatic. If the gun is automatic, then we will create a timer, and if the timer finishes, then we shoot again. If it isn't, then we stop shooting immediately. So that's gonna be the diagram that we will follow. And to do this in a cleaner way and do not implement this here in the character, because maybe we change character later, I do not know, we will create a gun component, and then we could use that component to create a gun here and attach everything. So let's do that. Here I had my core folder, gun folder, perfect. I will create a blueprint class, actor component, and I will call it blueprint gun component. Let's open it. And here I will store some values of the gun. For example, there is a weapon range. I'm gonna call it range. Variables range. My gun will do damage, so let's add a value called damage. What else can it do? I'm gonna ask if it's automatic. And those are values that I need here. Here we do damage, we need a value to know what the damage is. Here it is it automatic? Then we need to know if it is or if it isn't. We need a timer for it to shoot every time the timer ends. So we need a value for that. We will call it the fire rate. And the range we said, let's compile everything. Range, it was like 3000. Damage, maybe 10 for now. It's automatic, this should be a boolean. Let's say it is automatic. I'm gonna put it through here. The fire rate will be 0.5. So this means that every 1 second, 2 bullets will fire. No, that would be 2. That would be 2. Fire rate 2 is 2 bullets every second. Now we need to add this component so we have the information about the gun here. So let's do this. Let's put it add gun component. Here it is. It does not have a visual representation, but with this component we will inherit a lot of the behavior that we will create in the component, so we do not need to create it all over again if we change characters. So first, what action can my gun do? Well, we said that it can shoot, and because we will need to loop that, we need to set up a start and an end for the shooting. So let's create those functions in our component. Here we have my gun component, functions, plus, and then start shooting. We also need the shoot, and we also need the stop shooting. Now we need a way to call it. Let's compile it, save it. The first person character. I will disconnect it and I will put it like here. Here, pressed, we will get our gun component. Let's start shooting. And released should just be stop. Now, nothing will happen now because we just break everything. We just broke all the behavior that we created. So we need to put it somewhere, right? This trace, I need to create it in my component here. And everything that we done, it will be inside the shooting behavior. So let's just copy and paste it. Let's copy it like this, and then we will see all the errors that we will get. Shoot, paste it here. There are function references that could not be resolved. Let's create a matching function in the blueprint. And where's my confirm button? There it is. So the bullet trajectory, it's also created. Perfect. Now, there are a lot of stuff that I need. For example, the gun. The gun, we see that is a component that gladly is not part of the mesh. So we could create it. For example, we can, I'm gonna move it like here. Oh, I can't move it. It's attached. Is it attached? Why couldn't I move it? I'm attaching it here. We can recreate this by, this is a skeletal mesh component, then my gun component at the start of everything, and let's connect this for now. Oh, let's not, because if I compile, then it will give me a lot of errors. At the start, we need to create that skeletal mesh component. So let's add a component. What do we need? A skeletal mesh. Skeletal mesh component. I'm gonna leave it like this for now. Just gonna split it so it creates on the origin of my blueprint where this component exists. And then I need to set everything up. I'm gonna promote it to a variable, and I'm gonna call it exactly the same as this FP gun. I'm gonna press F2 and paste the name. Perfect. I need my camera. I can get the camera without creating the component by using get camera, get player camera manager. It will ask me an index. For now, this is a single player game, so this will work. This will also work in multiplayer games, unless you're doing a split screen one. Then you need to know which index it is, but for now, there is no problem here. Get camera. No, I can ask the camera location here. Root component, and I can get the forward vector also. So this solves the part of the rotation of the camera. Here we have the weapon range, here we have a range. Let's change the node by dragging and dropping on top. And now every part of the code here should work, except that we have not set up completely this skeletal mesh. So we need to do that first. We need to, let's save this shoot behavior. Let's go to the event graph. And here we have an error. The blueprint itself is not an actor. We need to add it to an actor, which will be the actor that this component is in. We can get it through get owner. Now, compile it, we can add it. And we need to set up the skeletal mesh that it will be used. So, set skeletal mesh, new mesh, the gun. Perfect. We need to do this part also, this attach. I can copy and paste it. And I need somewhere to attach it. There are a lot of ways to get this component. What I will use will be create here. And let's see if this works. If it doesn't, then I'm gonna do it another way around it. Let's create this mesh, create a variable. This variable is also an skeletal mesh, and let me see if I put this to instance editable, then in the first person character, my gun component, can I set it up? Nope, I cannot. So that won't work. The other way around it would be to do it in the first person character. In the construction script, well, not in the construction script, because the component we created here will not be created after the begin play. So what we will do is create an event dispatcher to know when did the component created. So gun was on, no, on gun creation. And this event dispatcher, I'm gonna call it right after creating the gun. What this will allow us, let's compile, and this is really great stuff. Let's go to a first person character, and do you remember that for some components we have events here that we can use? Yeah, now that we created an event dispatcher, we can click on my gun component and there will be a gun creation. Let's click it, and when the gun is created, I can also let's copy and paste this code. Event graph, here it is on gun creation. We do not have this part of the puzzle, the gun, but we can pass it through the event dispatcher like this. Event dispatcher here, I'm gonna add an input, and I'm gonna need this skeletal mesh component. Let's do it like this. Skeletal mesh component, an object reference because I just created this object. I'm gonna call it gun skeletal mesh. Compile it. I'm gonna refresh this node, and I'm gonna pass this. I do not need this mesh, but I need this FP gun. And here in the first person character, now I can attach it like before. So let's see if this worked at all or it didn't. It seems like it did, but just to be sure, let me remove this gun. And I'm gonna press play. And even though I removed the component, I do have the gun. If I want my player to do not have a gun, then I can delete my component, and I would need to break this like this. Delete it, play. I have some. Where are my errors though? My start shooting, and yeah. Play. And now my character does not have a gun. This will make it easy to add more behavior for things like picking up guns, creating more guns. We would just need to define it here in my gun component, which type of gun I want, and I can set up the skeletal mesh. Cool, right?
Cool.
So we have all the behavior here. Let's compile it again. Let's use it. We have a start shooting and a stop shooting. Let's double click the start shooting. Here, for now, I'm gonna put it shoot. And we should have whatever we had before. My bullet trajectory is, that's why I couldn't see the bullet. Let's create it again. And it seemed like a lot of work, but in the end, it will only help us keep our code clean and keep our code modular. So if we need to have a gun in another game, we can just import this component and then we are set. Yeah, now I can see my gun and the bullet I was shooting before. Perfect. We now have completed this start shooting and this stop shooting. This also works, but I need to add this part if the gun is automatic or not. And I will do that in the start shooting, because I already shot. I want to know if my gun can keep shooting, right? So I'm gonna ask here if my gun is automatic, then if it's false, then stop shooting right away. That's like we have it, yeah. But if it is automatic, then here it says I should create a timer, and that's what I will do. Set timer by function name, and the function I want to execute, to run, is the shoot one. So the function name is shoot. What's the time? It's not the fire rate, because if our fire rate is 2, then I do not want it to be a 2-second delay. It will be something like this. We divide 1 by 2, and we have it. 1 divided by 2 will be 0.5, so it will shoot twice. And if my fire rate is like 3, then it will shoot 3 times every second. Now, I do not want to run this code again, so I'm gonna press loop. Perfect. And now this part is completed. We are checking if it's automatic, and we're creating a timer. We need to know if the timer finished. If the timer finished, that is being handled by this node. So whenever it finishes, it runs the shoot function. So if the timer finishes, if it isn't, then it's still running. But if it finishes, yes, then I shoot again. So that's already happened. Now I need to know that when the player stops shooting, we need to delete that timer. So let's delete it on the stop shooting. Here, I do not have any way to access that timer, so I need to go to the start shooting, and here I need to promote it to a variable, and I'm gonna call it shoot timer. There it is. Save, compile, and now in my stop shooting, I can use this shoot timer and invalidate it. I'm gonna put clear and invalidate because I also want to delete it, because I won't need it after shooting, and it will be created again whenever I shoot. Let's press play, and now if I hold my mouse, it shoots as I expected. We lost the animation, so let's add it again. We need a way to know when the bullet was shot. So in the shoot, here, bullet trajectory, I'm gonna create another event dispatcher, and I'm gonna call it on shoot. Gonna put it right here, call, and now compile, save it, first person character, go to my component, on shoot. I'm gonna put this part of the code that play a montage that is just playing an animation on top of everything. So now if I press play, now we have it exactly like we had before, and our component is doing all the heavy lifting. If we created another character, then we just need to put the component on top and just use these events to attach and to do a montage play. and to start shooting and stop shooting. Any questions thus far, or anything that was not clear, maybe?
Not so far.
And
Let's
from
keep the
you,
momentum.
Mauricio, maybe you have some questions, or maybe
I
I
think
went.
I'm hanging in there. But yeah, for sure, the modular approach looks like more work at the beginning, but at the end, like if you have more stuff to do, this will pay off.
Yeah, definitely.
It's like creating the modular pieces for the environment. Like it takes you like 15 minutes or 20, something like that, just to create one. And then you use it like 100 times in your game development cycle that lasts for 1 year. So it's not that bad.
Yeah, and if for whatever reason you let's say we do not want to do biped characters, we need now like a pound with four legs or a spider that can shoot or a turret that can move, we can still use the same the same behavior because everything will start shooting, stop shooting, and will do the actual trace. The code will be almost the same.
Awesome.
So let's add a little interaction. First, we can create the targets. It will be like really simple to do. So let's do it. It will be a target that will destroy. Like for now, it will just disappear. Then we can get the modular approach like even further. But let's take it one step at a time. We first need to know that every actor inside Unreal, and this is also this everything that we have done right now can be applied to Unreal 4 just in case. You can create components, you can create the stuff we just did.